Welcome to Pruning 101. I guess the most asked question about pruning is, when should I prune? That's kind of a basic question. It depends on the plant that you're dealing with. If you're not sure, a good way is to look up your plant, see what the literature says about pruning it. I will give you a few examples here. If you have a plant that blooms early, flowers early in the spring, such as lilac or forsythia, a good time to prune is immediately after they flower. Then they will grow all summer and be ready for their flower in the next season. If you have a plant that blooms later in the summer, blooms on new wood, a good example is the panicle hydrangea, Hydrangea paniculata. It's generally a plant with conical shaped flowers that tells you that it's a panicle hydrangea. And this one can be pruned in the winter, late fall, winter, or very early spring, and then it's going to grow during the summer, and probably around midsummer it will flower. So that gives you some idea when to prune. There are certainly other situations. For instance, the broadleaf evergreens, such as boxwood, you can prune those at any point during the summer. I actually think they look better if they are pruned in the spring, so they grow all summer and they fill in, they look nice. If you prune them late in the fall or late in the summer, they might not grow much, and then they look sheared all winter, so maybe not such a good situation. If you have a broadleaf evergreen that flowers in the summer, especially one that's an early flowering one such as cherry laurel, you could prune those after they flower if you want your flowers, and then they will grow all summer and be ready to bloom the next year. There are other plants, and there are quite a few of them, that fall into the classification more or less. You can prune them anytime you want. And a good example of that is the red twig dogwood. This plant does flower, and you know, if you prune it during the summer, it's going to stimulate new growth, and you will more likely get several flowering periods, which is fine. You can also prune this plant in the winter. It'll be ready for the next summer. And this is a good plant to look up some information on and get your plan for pruning it, because this plant has basically red stems in the winter. That's one reason that people like it. But when the stems get old and larger, they become woody and they lose their red color. So with this plant, you could theoretically say every year in the winter time, take out maybe a third of the stems all the way to the ground. It will put out new stems, and they will be redder, so you'll have a more exciting plant. Very easy to do with this. And the other question about pruning that people have is, well, how do you do it? Or basically, you want to prune above your buds. And this plant, this forsythia, I picked because it's fairly easy to see the buds. You can also see them on the lilac here. So you would prune right above, on the lilac, right above a bud. And that way you don't want to prune below a bud and leave stems. You don't want to do that. So basically, that's it in a nutshell. And there are so many different varieties of plants that it behooves you to investigate each one you have and see how you can best handle the situation. That is it for 101 today, and thank you very much.